There are different kinds of silence. There's the silence of peace, when you're content with your own company. There's the silence of understanding, when words aren't needed. And then there's the silence I chose that December evening, the most dangerous kind, the silence you use when you're calculating exactly how someone's world is about to change. The expensive coat she wore, the luxury apartment she thought she earned, the career she believed she built on her own merit. All of it was about to unravel, and she had no idea that her own words had pulled the first thread. My name is Robert Chen, and I'm 62 years old. For the past 15 years, I've walked through the marble lobby of the Vanderbilt Tower in Lower Manhattan, wearing navy blue work pants and a gray shirt with building services embroidered on the pocket. I push a cleaning cart. I empty trash bins. I mop floors at 6 in the morning when the overnight traders are finally leaving and the morning crowd hasn't arrived yet. People walk past me like I'm furniture. Sometimes they don't walk past, they walk through, cutting right in front of my cart without a glance, talking on their phones about deals and clients and weekend plans in the Hamptons. I don't mind. In fact, I prefer it this way. What they don't know, what almost nobody knows, is that I own the building and 3 others like it, and the property management company that runs them. My portfolio is worth about $60 million, but you wouldn't know it to look at me. I drive a 15-year-old Toyota. I live in a modest 2-bedroom in Queens that I bought 30 years ago. I still do my own maintenance work because that's how I learned this business from the ground up, literally. I came to this country from Taiwan when I was 19 years old with $800 and a work visa. I got a job as a night janitor in a small office building in Brooklyn. The owner was an old Jewish man named Sol Bernstein, who took a liking to me. He taught me that the people who really understand buildings aren't the ones sitting in corner offices. They're the ones who fix the boilers and unclog the drains and notice when a pipe is about to burst before it actually does. When Sol retired, he sold me that building for a price I could barely afford, with a handshake agreement that I'd pay him over 20 years. I paid it off in 12. I bought my second building at 40, my third at 48. The Vanderbilt Tower at 55. I still inspect every property personally, still wear the uniform, still do the work. It keeps me honest. It keeps me connected to where I came from. I have 2 children. My son James is 31, works in construction management, makes an honest living. He knows the truth about what I do and what I own. We have dinner every Sunday, and he tells me about the projects he's working on, the problems he's solving. He's proud of his work. I'm proud of him. My daughter Sophia is 28. She works at Branson Marketing Group, which occupies floors 12 through 15 of the Vanderbilt Tower. She's a senior account manager. She makes $90,000 a year, which she believes she earned entirely through her own talent and hard work. She drives a BMW 5 Series. She lives in a luxury 1-bedroom in the West Village that costs $4,500 a month. She thinks I'm just a janitor who can barely make ends meet. I never corrected her. The December evening that changed everything started like any other Friday. The building was hosting its annual tenant appreciation event, basically an excuse for the companies to show off to each other while drinking free champagne and eating shrimp cocktail in the lobby atrium. I was working the event, of course. Someone had to make sure the caterers had access to the service elevators and that the bathrooms stayed stocked and clean. I was replacing paper towels in the second-floor men's room when I heard voices in the hallway outside. One of them was Sophia's. "This place is gorgeous," a woman's voice said. "God, I love these old buildings. So much character." "It's okay," Sophia replied. "A little dated, but it's convenient to everything. Your office is here, right?" This was a male voice, young, confident, the kind of voice that's used to people listening. "Yeah, we're on 14. The views are insane. We can see the East River from the conference room." I finished with the towels and stepped out into the hallway, pushing my cart. Sophia was standing with 3 people, 2 women about her age, and a man in his early 30s wearing a suit that probably cost more than my monthly rent. They all had champagne flutes in their hands. Sophia saw me, and her face did something I'd never seen before. It closed, like shutters coming down over windows. "Dad," she said, and the word came out flat, empty of warmth. "What are you doing on this floor?" I looked at her, then at her friends, then back at her. I understood immediately what was happening. She hadn't told them about me. Or rather, she'd told them something, but not the truth. Just checking the facilities, I said quietly, making sure everything's ready for the event. The man in the expensive suit looked at me with the particular kind of polite disinterest that rich people reserve for service workers. You work here? In the building? Before I could answer, Sophia jumped in. He does maintenance. Different shift, usually. I didn't know you'd be here tonight, Dad. That word again, Dad, but this time with an edge to it. A warning. Don't embarrass me. One of the women, a blonde with perfect teeth and a necklace that probably cost more than my car, smiled in that overly warm way that people do when they're performing compassion. That's so great. My father always says we don't appreciate people who do manual labor enough. It's honest work. Very honest, the man agreed. He extended his hand to me. Trevor Whitmore. I'm in private equity at Blackstone. I shook his hand. His grip was firm, probably practiced. Robert and I were just heading down, Sophia said quickly. We should let you get back to work, Dad. I'm sure you're busy. The other woman, a brunette with sharp eyes, tilted her head. Wait, Robert Chen? Is that your last name? Same as Sophia's? There was a beat of silence. Yes, I said. Are you two related? Sophia's jaw tightened. He's my father. Oh my God, the blonde said, her voice rising with enthusiasm. That's so sweet that you get to see each other at work. Do you grab lunch together? We're usually on different schedules, Sophia said, and I could hear the strain in her voice, like wire being pulled too tight. Dad works really early mornings mostly. Trevor was looking at me with a new expression, something calculating. Chen, are you the Chen who owns the property management company, Chen Holdings? My daughter's face went very still. I smiled. There are a lot of Chens in New York. Right, of course. He laughed, shook his head. Sorry, I'm always thinking about real estate deals. Occupational hazard. We should go down, Sophia said. Nice meeting you, Dad. I'll call you this weekend. She hadn't called me in 6 weeks. They walked away, their voices fading down the hallway. I heard Trevor say something, and the others laugh. I couldn't make out the words, but I heard my daughters laugh among them, high and false. I stood there for a long moment, looking at the empty hallway. Then I pulled my phone from my pocket and texted my property manager. Patricia, need you to pull something for me, I wrote. Tenant files for Branson Marketing Group. Specifically employee information for Sophia Chen. Everything salary, benefits, performance reviews, expense reports, confidentially. Patricia responded immediately. Midnight tonight, okay? Perfect. I went back to work. I emptied trash cans. I checked the heating system. I made sure the caterers had everything they needed. At one point, I passed by the atrium where the party was in full swing, and I saw Sophia laughing with Trevor and her friends, drinking champagne, completely at ease in this world she thought she belonged to. She didn't look my way once. At midnight, Patricia sent me a secure file. I sat in my small office on the ground floor, the one with my name on the door that nobody ever reads because why would you read the janitor's nameplate, and I opened it on my laptop. Sophia Chen. Salary, $90,000. Started 3 years ago as a junior account manager at $55,000. 2 promotions. Performance reviews were adequate, not exceptional. Phrases like meets expectations and shows promise appeared frequently. One review from her director noted that she sometimes relies on her natural charisma rather than thorough preparation. Expense reports were interesting. Lots of client dinners, always at the most expensive restaurants in Manhattan. A week-long business trip to Miami that looked suspiciously like a vacation. Ubers charged to the company card for trips that had nothing to do with work. I could see the addresses. But what really caught my attention was buried in the lease agreement. Branson Marketing Group occupied floors 12 through 15. They'd been here for 8 years. Their lease was up for renewal in 4 months. The rent was below market rate. I'd given them a deal when they first moved in because I wanted to fill the space quickly, and they'd been willing to sign a long-term lease. I sat back in my chair and looked at the ceiling. I could hear the building settling around me, the small creaks and groans that I knew like a language. This building had been my greatest investment and my biggest risk. I'd over-leveraged myself to buy it. Bet everything I had that Lower Manhattan was about to boom. I'd been right. But I'd never told my children about it. I'd never told anyone except James, and I'd sworn him to secrecy. I'd wanted them to make their own way. To not rely on me. To not become the kind of people who thought they were special, just because their father had money. But somewhere along the line, Sophia had decided I was someone to be ashamed of. Not just modest ashamed. She'd looked at me tonight like I was an embarrassment. A problem to be managed. Someone who needed to be explained away to her sophisticated friends. I thought about my son, who worked hard and never complained, who showed up to Sunday dinners and asked me about my week and actually listened to the answers. I thought about the years I'd spent building something from nothing. All those nights as a young immigrant working until my hands bled, saving every dollar, learning every aspect of this business from the inside out. And I thought about my daughter, who thought hard work meant eating expensive sushi with clients and charging it to a company card. I picked up my phone and called my lawyer, David Marsh. He answered on the third ring, voice thick with sleep. Robert, it's midnight. Is everything okay? Everything's fine. I need you to prepare something for me. A comprehensive audit of Branson Marketing Group's lease compliance. I want to know every violation, every late payment, every single thing they're doing that's not by the book. There was a pause. Okay. Any particular reason? Professional interest. Robert, you never have professional interest at midnight. What's going on? Just do it, David. And I need it by Monday. Fine. Anything else? Yes. I want you to review the employment contract that my daughter's company uses. I want to know exactly what grounds they have for termination, what the severance packages look like, all of it. Another pause, longer this time. Robert, you're not thinking of... I'm not thinking anything yet. I'm gathering information. That's what you do before you make a decision. All right. I'll have everything to you Monday morning. I hung up and sat in the quiet of my office. Outside, the city hummed with its usual late-night energy. Inside, I felt very calm, very clear. I wasn't angry, exactly. Anger is hot and reactive. This was something colder, more deliberate. Disappointment, maybe, or just a recognition that I'd made a mistake. I'd tried to teach my children about the value of hard work by hiding my own success, but all I'd taught Sophia was that her father was someone she didn't need to respect. That was going to change. The weekend passed slowly. I did what I always do, grocery shopping, cooking simple meals, reading the newspaper in the morning with tea, watching basketball in the afternoon. James came over for Sunday dinner as usual. We made pot stickers together, a recipe my mother had taught me before I left Taiwan. How was your week? He asked, expertly crimping the edges of a dumpling. Interesting, I said. I saw your sister. He looked up sharply. At the building? At a party there. She was with friends. She introduced me as the maintenance man. James set down the dumpling he was working on. She didn't tell them? No. Jesus, Dad. I'm sorry. Don't be. It's not your fault. What are you going to do? I smiled. I'm going to teach her something I should have taught her a long time ago, which is that the person mopping your floor might own the building you're standing in. James looked at me for a long moment, then shook his head slowly. God help her. God helps those who help themselves, I said. Let's finish these dumplings. On Monday morning, David called me at 7 o'clock. I was already in the building, checking the boiler system on the subfloor. I've got your information, he said. And Robert, it's a lot. Tell me. Branson Marketing has violated their lease in at least 6 significant ways. They've subleased space without permission. They're letting a small design firm use half of floor 13. They've made unauthorized modifications to the space. They're consistently late on payments, usually by a week or two, which violates the timely payment clause. And they're over their occupancy limit. The lease specifies maximum 80 employees. They currently have 97. Is it enough to terminate the lease? With 60 days' notice? Absolutely. You'd be well within your rights. What about my daughter's employment contract? Standard corporate agreement. At-will employment. which means they can terminate at any time, for any reason that's not discriminatory. But here's the interesting part. I had my assistant pull some strings and look at their financials. Branson is not doing well. They lost their 3 biggest clients in the past year. They're hemorrhaging money. If they lost this lease and had to relocate, especially at current Manhattan commercial rates, they'd probably have to downsize significantly. Layoffs would be inevitable. I leaned against the concrete wall of the boiler room, thinking, "And the car she drives?" I said. "The BMW?" I pulled the registration. "It's leased through a company called Platinum Auto Group, which, if I'm reading this correctly, Robert, did you buy Platinum Auto Group? 18 months ago, through a shell corporation. So you own the company that's leasing your daughter her car?" "Yes." "And her apartment?" "The building is owned by a friend of mine. I helped him buy it 5 years ago. I called in a favor. He's willing to help." David was quiet for a moment. "Robert, I've known you for 15 years. I've never seen you do anything like this. She needs to understand what she has, and where it came from. This is going to hurt her." "Yes, it is." "All right, what do you want me to do?" "Send Branson Marketing a formal notice of lease violations. Give them 30 days to remedy or face termination. Be professional, but firm." "And the car?" "I'll handle that separately." "Robert, one more thing. Your daughter's apartment. What exactly is the arrangement there?" I smiled. "I've been paying the rent for the past 2 years. She thinks her salary covers it. It doesn't, not even close. I set it up so the checks come from a management company. And she never looked closely enough to wonder why a West Village 1-bedroom was only $2,800 a month when market rate is $4,500. Jesus. I wanted her to feel independent. I wanted her to believe she was making it on her own. But I also wanted her to be safe, to live in a good neighborhood. I thought I was helping. You were helping? No, David. I was enabling. There's a difference. The letter went out on Tuesday. I heard about the response by Wednesday evening through Patricia, who heard it from the building manager, who'd taken the call from Branson's COO. "They're furious," Patricia told me, standing in my office with a cup of coffee. The COO called and demanded to know where this was coming from. Said they've been model tenants for years. What did Tom tell him? Told him to read the lease agreement. Every violation is documented. The sublease alone is grounds for immediate termination. Good. Robert, can I ask you something? Always. This doesn't have anything to do with your daughter working there, does it? I looked at Patricia. She'd worked for me for 8 years. She was sharp, efficient, and she knew when to ask questions and when to stay quiet. "It has everything to do with my daughter working there," I said, "but not in the way you think. If they fix their violations, they keep the lease. If they don't, they face the consequences. That's how contracts work. And if they can't afford to fix the violations, then they'll have to make hard decisions about their business. That's how business works." She nodded slowly. "Just so you know, there's already talk among the tenants. Branson, people are nervous. They should be." On Thursday, I went to visit Platinum Auto Group in person. The manager, a woman named Linda who'd worked there for 20 years, recognized me immediately. "Mr. Chen, this is a surprise. We don't usually see you here. I like to check in personally sometimes. How's business?" "Strong. These lease programs are working really well. People love the flexibility." Good, good. "Linda, I need you to do something for me. I need you to review the lease for a BMW 5 Series. Driver name Sophia Chen." Her expression changed slightly. "Your daughter?" "Yes. Is there a problem with the vehicle?" "I need you to check the payment history." She typed on her computer, frowned. "Payments have been. They're 30 days behind. Actually, they're now 60 days behind as of this week. I thought I was paying those." "You were, through an automatic transfer. But the transfer was canceled about 2 months ago. We sent notices to the lessee, but I held up my hand. The transfer was canceled because I closed that particular account. I forgot to set up a new one." "Ah, that explains it. Would you like me to—" "No. I want you to follow standard procedure. 60 days late means repossession, doesn't it?" Linda's face went very still. "Mr. Chen, I don't think—" Standard procedure, Linda, by the book. If my daughter hasn't made the payments, the car gets repossessed. Schedule it for tomorrow. Tomorrow? But we usually give 90 days before. The lease says 60. Enforce the lease. She looked at me for a long moment, then nodded. All right, I'll schedule it for tomorrow afternoon. Thank you. That night, I called my friend Michael, who owned Sophia's apartment building. Robert, how are you? It's been too long. I need a favor. Name it. I wouldn't own this building if it weren't for you. My daughter lives in Unit 4F. You know she's my daughter? Of course. Lovely girl. Always pleasant when I see her. I've been paying her rent through a management company account that makes it look like it's coming from her directly. Okay, I'm stopping the payments. As of this month. There was a long pause. Robert, what's going on? She needs to learn what things actually cost. I need you to treat her like any other tenant. If she doesn't pay rent, give her the standard notices. 30 days, then eviction proceedings. You want me to evict your daughter? I want you to treat her like any other tenant who doesn't pay rent. If she comes up with the money, fine. If she doesn't, follow the law. This seems harsh. She told her friends, I was just a janitor. She was ashamed of me. Michael was quiet for a moment. Ah, I see. Do we have an understanding? Yes, I'll follow standard procedure. But Robert, I think you should talk to her first. I will. After she understands what she's about to lose. Friday morning, I was mopping the floor in the Vanderbilt Tower lobby when I saw Sophia come through the revolving doors at 8:30. She looked agitated, talking rapidly on her phone. I don't understand, she was saying. The payment was automatic. How can it be 60 days late? She walked right past me without a glance, heading for the elevators. Well, when can I get it back? She said into the phone. This afternoon? I need my car for work. The elevator doors closed on her frustrated voice. At noon, I saw her again. She was with Trevor, the private equity guy from the party. They were standing near the building directory, and he had his hand on her shoulder in a way that was supposed to be comforting. It's fine, he was saying. These things happen. You can Uber for a few days while you sort it out. It's not fine, Trevor. I don't understand how this happened. I set up automatic payments. Did you check your bank account? Maybe the account was closed or something? She pulled out her phone, tapped on it, frowned. That doesn't make sense. The account is fine. There's money in it. Well, call the leasing company again. They probably made a mistake. They said they sent notices. To my apartment. Did you get them? I don't know. I don't always check my mail right away. Trevor glanced at his watch. Listen, I have a meeting, but I'll call you later, okay? We'll figure this out. He kissed her cheek and headed for the elevators. Sophia stood there for a moment, staring at her phone, then turned and nearly walked straight into my cleaning cart. Excuse me, she said automatically, not looking up. Sophia. She looked up, saw me, and her expression did that closing thing again. Dad. Hi. I can't really talk right now. I'm having a weird day. I heard about your car. How did you? She stopped. Were you listening to my phone call? You were standing 10 feet away from me. You weren't exactly whispering. She flushed. Well, it's just a mix-up with the leasing company. I'll get it sorted out. I'm sure you will. She looked at me more closely. You seem, I don't know, different. Different how? I don't know. You're usually more apologetic when you're working. Apologetic for what? For, she gestured vaguely, being in the way. You usually kind of disappear when I'm around. Maybe I got tired of disappearing. She blinked. What? Nothing. You should get back to work. Sounds like you have a lot to sort out. I pushed my cart past her toward the service elevator. I could feel her eyes on my back, confused, uncertain. Good. At 3 o'clock, Patricia called me. Branson just responded to the lease violation notice, she said. Their lawyer sent over a pretty aggressive letter. They're denying most of the violations and threatening to countersue for harassment. Expected. What about the sublease? They admit to that one, but claim it's a mutual benefit arrangement that's been ongoing with your knowledge. Which is a lie. Which is a lie. But they're betting you don't want to go to court over it. Set up a meeting with their executive team. Monday morning. Conference room on 22. You want to meet with them personally? Yes. Robert, they think you're the maintenance supervisor. When you walk into that meeting as the owner, that's exactly the point. Monday morning arrived cold and clear. I put on one of my 2 suits, a charcoal gray Brooks Brothers that I'd bought 10 years ago and wore maybe twice a year. White shirt, burgundy tie, black shoes I'd polished the night before. I looked at myself in the mirror. 62 years old, gray hair, deep lines around my eyes. But my back was straight and my hands were steady. I looked like what I was, a man who'd worked hard for everything he had. I arrived at the building at 8 o'clock and went directly to the 22nd floor. Patricia was already there, setting up the conference room. She looked up when I walked in and smiled. They're going to have a heart attack, she said. That's the idea. At 8:30, the Branson team arrived. 4 people. The CEO, a man in his 50s named Richard Morrison. The COO, a woman named Jennifer Park, their lawyer, and their head of HR. And behind them, looking confused and out of place, was Sophia. They saw me standing at the head of the conference table, and there was a moment of absolute confusion. "Excuse me," Richard Morrison said, looking at Patricia. "We're here for a meeting with the property owner. We were told 8:30. "You're in the right place," I said. They looked at me, really looked at me for the first time. I saw the recognition start to dawn on Morrison's face. "Robert Chen," I said, extending my hand. "I own this building, and the 3 others your company looked at when you were considering relocation last year." The lawyer's mouth actually fell open slightly. Jennifer Park's eyes went wide, and Sophia, my daughter, stood there frozen, her face going through a series of expressions I'd never seen before. Shock, disbelief, understanding, horror. "Mr. Chen," Morrison managed. "We were expecting, that is, we thought. You thought the owner would send a representative. I am the owner. I'm also the maintenance supervisor. I find it's useful to keep close tabs on my properties." I gestured to the chairs. "Please, sit." They sat. Sophia was the last to sit, moving like she was in a dream. "Dad," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "What is—" "We'll get to that," I said. "First, let's discuss your company's lease violations." For the next 30 minutes, I walked them through every single violation. The sublease, the unauthorized modifications, the late payments. I pulled up a spreadsheet showing every single payment over the past 3 years, with dates and amounts. The occupancy overage. Morrison tried to defend most of them. The lawyer tried to argue that the violations were minor. Jennifer Park mostly stayed quiet, her face getting paler. "Here's what's going to happen," I said, cutting through Morrison's 4th justification. "You have 30 days to remedy every violation. The sublease ends immediately. The modifications get reversed at your expense. You get your employee count down to lease limits. And you pay your rent on time from now on, not a week late. And if we can't meet those terms," the lawyer asked, "then your lease terminates in 60 days, and you find somewhere else to do business." "Mr. Chen," Morrison said, leaning forward, "we've been good tenants for 8 years. These are minor issues that we can resolve. But I think what's really happening here is that you're looking for a reason to raise our rent. You can be honest about it. If you want to renegotiate." "I don't want to renegotiate. I want you to follow the lease you signed." "But why now? Why suddenly crack down after 8 years of—" "Because I can," I said simply. "Because it's my building and my rules. And because teaching people to respect contracts is important." I could see Sophia out of the corner of my eye. She had her hands folded on the table in front of her, and they were shaking slightly. "There's one more thing," I said. "Sophia, could you step outside for a moment?" "Why?" Her voice came out strangled. "Because what I'm about to discuss with your employers is confidential, but I'm an employee. If it affects the company, it might affect your employment specifically, which is why you need to wait outside." She stood up slowly, looking between me and Morrison like she was waiting for someone to explain what was happening. When no one did, she walked to the door and left, closing it softly behind her. "Now," I said, turning back to the others, "let's talk about your company's financial situation." I spent the next 20 minutes laying it out. Their client losses, their revenue drop, their inability to pay market rate rent if they had to relocate, the fact that they were, by any reasonable assessment, one bad quarter away from insolvency. How do you know all this? Jennifer Park asked quietly. Because it's my job to know who I'm renting to, and because when someone threatens to sue me for harassment, I do my homework. What do you want? Morrison asked bluntly. I want you to clean up your operations. I want you to follow the rules. And I want you to understand that the favorable rent you've been paying isn't an entitlement. It's a courtesy that can be revoked if you don't hold up your end of the bargain. And Sophia, the HR director, spoke for the first time, a small woman with sharp eyes. Why is she here? Because she works for you. And because she needs to understand that the world she thinks she lives in, the world where things just work out, where cars and apartments and jobs just happen, isn't real. Someone is always holding up that world. And when that person stops, it collapses. I stood up. You have 30 days. I'll expect a written plan for addressing each violation by the end of this week. This meeting is over. They filed out in silence. Through the glass wall of the conference room, I could see Sophia standing in the hallway, waiting. They walked past her without speaking. Morrison gave her a look that I couldn't quite read: concern, maybe, or pity. Then she was standing in the doorway, and we were alone. Close the door, I said. She did. We stood there looking at each other across the conference table. I'd known this girl since she was born. I'd walked her to her first day of school. I'd taught her to ride a bike. I'd paid for her college education, every penny of it, and she'd graduated without debt. I'd given her everything I could think to give her. And she'd looked at me on that Friday evening like I was an embarrassment. You own this building, she said finally. Her voice was flat, mechanical. Yes. And how many others? 3 more in Manhattan, plus the property management company, plus some other investments. How much are you worth? Does it matter? Yes, it fucking matters. Her voice rose, cracked. You've been walking around in a janitor's uniform while I thought you were... What? Poor? Struggling? What did you think, Sophia? I thought you were barely making it. I thought you were living paycheck to paycheck. I offered to lend you money last year. For Christ's sake. I remember. For Christmas, you offered me $200 because you thought I couldn't afford presents. And you took it. I donated it to a shelter. But yes, I took it. Because I wanted to see if you'd offer. If you'd help. Even when you thought I couldn't give you anything back. She stared at me. That's twisted. Is it? Or did I just want to know who you really were? Whether you'd be kind to the man you thought was a struggling maintenance worker? I am kind to you. You introduced me to your friends as the maintenance man. You didn't say I was your father until they asked. She opened her mouth, closed it. That's not... I was just embarrassed. You were embarrassed of me. No. Sophia, I have been walking through this building for 15 years. I've watched thousands of people walk past me without a second glance. I've emptied their trash. I've fixed their toilets. I've cleaned up their messes. And you know what I learned? You can tell everything about a person by how they treat the people they think can't do anything for them. That's not fair, she said, but her voice was weak. Your friend's that man, Trevor. Especially. Do you know what he is? He works in private equity. He's a user. I saw the way he looked at you when he thought I was just a janitor. Polite disinterest. And then when he thought maybe I might be someone important, suddenly he was all attention. That's who he is. He values people for what they can give him. You don't know him. I know exactly who he is. And I know that the life you're living, the car, the apartment, this job is built on a foundation you didn't create and don't understand. What are you talking about? I sat down, suddenly tired. Your car, the one that got repossessed on Friday. I own the leasing company. I was paying the lease through an automatic transfer that I canceled. Her face went white. Your apartment, I continued, the one in the West Village. Market rate for a place like that is $4,500 a month. You pay $2,800. Do you know why? Because I own the management company that handles the building, and I've been paying the difference for 2 years. No, she whispered. Your job. This company is about to go through layoffs. They're going to have to cut 20, maybe 30 positions. You're a senior account manager with an adequate performance record and expensive habits. Under normal circumstances, you'd probably be on that list. You can't. I'm not doing anything to your job. That's between you and your employers. I'm just telling you that the safety net you've been living with your entire adult life is about to disappear. Not because I'm cruel, but because you need to learn what things actually cost. She sank into a chair. Why are you doing this? Because I failed you. I thought if I hid my success, you'd learn to value hard work. But all I taught you was that your father was someone you didn't need to respect. Someone you could dismiss when it was convenient. I never dismissed you. Last Friday, you stood in a hallway with your friends and introduced me as maintenance staff. You warned me with your eyes not to say anything that would embarrass you. You haven't called me in 6 weeks. When's the last time you came to Sunday dinner? She couldn't answer. I came to this country with nothing, I said quietly. I worked night shifts as a janitor for years. I learned this business from the ground up, literally from the basement up. Every property I own, I still inspect personally, because I remember what it was like to be the person cleaning the toilets. I never forgot where I came from. But somehow, I let my daughter forget what work actually means. So this is punishment. Her voice was bitter. You're taking away my car and my apartment to teach me a lesson? I'm stopping payment on things you should have been paying for yourself. That's not punishment. That's reality. I can't afford that apartment on my salary. I know. So, you'll have to make choices. Find a cheaper place. Get a roommate. Pick up freelance work. Figure it out. That's what adults do. In my car, you can get it back if you pay what you owe. Or you can take the subway like millions of other New Yorkers. This is insane. She stood up, her chair scraping back. You're insane. Maybe. Or maybe I'm just a father who realized too late that giving his daughter everything meant she learned to value nothing. I value. She stopped, tears in her eyes. God, I don't even know what to say to you. That's okay. You don't have to say anything right now. Go back to your office. Do your job. Figure out how you're going to handle the next month. And when you're ready to talk, really talk, you know where to find me. Where? In the basement? Emptying trash cans? Yes, I said simply. That's exactly where you'll find me. Because that's who I am. I'm the man who empties trash cans and owns buildings. I'm your father who came from nothing and built something. And I'm not ashamed of either of those things. The question is, are you? She stared at me for a long moment, then turned and walked out. I sat alone in the conference room for a while after she left. Through the windows, I could see the East River, gray and cold in the winter light. My phone buzzed, James, texting. How did it go? About as well as expected. I typed back. Need company tonight? Always. The next few weeks were difficult. I heard through Patricia that Branson was scrambling to address the lease violations. They ended the sublease, which meant the design firm on floor 13 had to find new space. They put a hiring freeze in place and let go of several contractors to get under the occupancy limit. Morrison himself came to my office, my real office, not the maintenance closet, and apologized for the lawyer's aggressive letter. He was polite, professional, and just slightly desperate. We're a good company, Mr. Chen, he said. We've hit some rough patches, but we're turning it around. I'd hate to lose this location. Then honor your lease, I said. That's all I'm asking. And Sophia, is she... should we be concerned about any conflict of interest? My relationship with my daughter is my business. Her performance at your company is yours. Judge her on her work, not on who her father is. He nodded, relieved, and left. I did see Sophia, though she clearly didn't want to be seen. I'd catch glimpses of her in the building, always moving quickly, always looking away when she spotted me. Her BMW was gone. I saw her coming out of the subway one morning, looking tired and frustrated. She'd cut back on the expensive lunches. I saw her eating a sandwich from the deli on the corner, sitting alone on a bench in the little plaza behind the building. I didn't approach her. She needed space to process, to figure things out on her own. What I didn't expect was Trevor. He showed up at the building on a Thursday afternoon, 3 weeks after the conference room meeting. I was in the lobby, actually doing maintenance work this time. One of the elevator doors was sticking, and I wanted to check the mechanism myself. Mr. Chen, he said, walking up to me in his perfect suit. Could I have a word? I looked up from the elevator panel. I'm working. I can see that. I'll only take a moment. I closed the panel and turned to face him. What do you want, Mr. Whitmore? I want to talk about Sophia. Then talk to Sophia. I did. She broke up with me. I waited, she said. He laughed, but there was no humor in it. She said I only cared about her when I thought she had connections, that I was interested in her father's real estate portfolio, not in her. Was she wrong? He met my eyes, and for the first time I saw something real in his expression. Shame, maybe, or just honesty. No, he said quietly. She wasn't wrong. I mean, I liked her. I did. But when I found out about you, about what you own, yeah, it changed things. Made her more interesting. And that's fucked up. I know that. Then why are you here? Because I think you might have been too hard on her. Excuse me? She's a good person, Mr. Chen. She works hard. She's smart. She cares about her job. And yeah, maybe she was embarrassed that her dad was a janitor, but that's not. He stopped, realizing what he'd said. Not what? I said softly. That's not the worst thing in the world. Lots of people are embarrassed by their parents. That doesn't make them terrible. Did you know your father? The question caught him off guard. Yes, he's a lawyer, senior partner at his firm. Are you embarrassed by him? No, but he's... He stopped again. Successful, I finished. Rich, the kind of father you can brag about. The kind that impresses people at parties. That's not what I meant. It's exactly what you meant. And that's the problem. My daughter thought the only kind of success that mattered was the kind you can show off. The kind that comes with a business card and a corner office and expensive dinners. She never learned that success also looks like a man with a mop and a bucket, who knows every pipe and wire in a building he owns. Trevor was quiet for a moment. She's hurting, he said finally. She's really struggling right now. She had to move out of her apartment. She's living with a friend, sleeping on a couch. She's picking up freelance work on weekends to make extra money. And she won't ask you for help. Good. Jesus, you're cold. No, Mr. Whitmore. I'm a father who loves his daughter enough to let her struggle. Because that's how you learn. That's how you become someone who understands that nothing is given, everything is earned. Evan love? Especially respect. He looked at me for a long moment, then nodded. I hope she's worth it. She is. She just doesn't know it yet. He left, and I went back to the elevator. But his words stayed with me. She's hurting. She's struggling. Good, I'd said. But was it good, or was I taking this too far? That night, I called James. Am I being too harsh? I asked. Do you want the honest answer? Always. Yes and no. What you're doing, making her stand on her own, that's necessary. She needed a wake-up call. But Dad, she's your daughter. At some point, you're going to have to let her back in. I haven't locked her out, haven't you? You dismantled her entire life in about 3 weeks. Her car, her apartment, her sense of security. That's pretty thorough. She'll build a new life. A better one. Maybe. Or maybe she'll just learn to resent you. That thought kept me awake that night. 2 more weeks passed. Spring started to edge out winter. The days got longer. I kept working, kept watching, kept waiting. And then, on a Sunday morning in late March, my doorbell rang. I opened the door, and there was Sophia, holding a white box from the bakery down the street. I brought pot sticker ingredients, she said. Her voice was careful, uncertain. And these. She held up the box. Pineapple buns. I remember you used to get them when I was little. I looked at her. She looked different. Tired, yes. Thinner. But something else had changed in her face. The hardness was gone. The performance. Come in, I said. We stood in my small kitchen, and I showed her how to make the dough, how to mix the filling, how to crimp the edges just right. We didn't talk about the building or the car or the apartment. We just cooked. Finally, as we were steaming the first batch, she said, I'm sorry. For what? For being ashamed of you. For treating you like you were less than. For not seeing, her voice cracked, for not seeing how hard you worked. For everything you built. For everything you gave me. I didn't need you to know what I owned, Sophia. I needed you to respect who I was. I know. I do know now. And I'm sorry it took all this for me to figure it out. Are you managing? With the new apartment? It's small. It's in Queens, not Manhattan. My roommate snores, but it's mine. I'm paying for it myself, every penny. And it feels, I don't know, it feels real in a way the other place never did. Good. I got promoted. At work. I looked up, surprised. You did? Richard Morrison called me into his office last week. Said that Branson is restructuring, cutting costs, and they need people who are willing to work harder for less money. He said he'd watched me for the past month how I'd handled losing my car, moving apartments, all of it. Said I'd shown more resilience than most of the senior people there. He gave me Jennifer Park's job when she left, COO. That's incredible. It comes with a salary cut, actually, but more responsibility. Real responsibility. Not just client dinners and expense accounts. I'm helping rebuild the company. She smiled, and it was genuine. I'm working 60-hour weeks. I take the F train in every morning. I pack my lunch. And I've never felt more like I actually earned something in my life. I felt something tight in my chest loosen. I'm proud of you. Really? Really. We ate the pot stickers together at my small kitchen table, and she told me about her work, about the changes at Branson, about the friend whose couch she'd been sleeping on until she found the new apartment. Trevor called me, she said finally, a few weeks ago. Said he talked to you. He did. He wanted to get back together. Said he understood now, that he'd been superficial, that he could change. What did you tell him? I told him that I needed to figure out who I was before I could be with someone. That I'd spent too long being the person I thought people wanted me to be. That was wise. I learned it from someone who spent 15 years pretending to be a janitor so his kids would learn to value work. I wasn't pretending. I am a janitor, among other things. She smiled. I know. I get it now. As she was leaving, she turned back at the door. Next Sunday, can I come back? You can come back any Sunday. You're always welcome. Even after everything? Sophia, you were welcome when you thought I was broke. You're welcome now that you know I'm not. You're my daughter. That doesn't change. She hugged me then, really hugged me, like she hadn't since she was a child. Thank you, she whispered, for not giving up on me. I never gave up. I just stopped doing your work for you. After she left, I sat in my living room and looked out the window at the street. My street, in my neighborhood, in the building I'd bought 30 years ago with everything I had. It wasn't fancy. It wasn't impressive. But it was mine, earned through years of early mornings and late nights and hard work. My phone buzzed. James, how'd it go? She brought pot sticker ingredients. She's forgiven you then. I think we forgave each other. Good. That's good, Dad. I put the phone down and closed my eyes. There's the silence of peace, the silence of understanding, and the silence I'd chosen that December evening when my daughter introduced me as the maintenance man. That silence had cost her everything I'd been propping up for her. But it had given her something more important, the understanding that respect isn't given, it's earned. That success isn't about what you appear to be, but what you actually do. That the man mopping the floor might own the building, and that's something worth remembering. She'd learned it the hard way, which was the only way that mattered. And now, finally, she knew who her father really was. Not the man in the business suit or the man with the cleaning cart, but both. Always both. That was worth everything else.